At Gators Breakdown here, we know we're business.
Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I am your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC. Coming at you. Hey, if you're joining me live, late, of course, right? The news came kind of late. I was trying to wind down my Sunday night a little bit, but I had in mind that, with the commitment here of Adrian Maddox to the Gators, gotta do an episode. So I didn't want to wait till Monday. Will Miles and I will be together Monday night, and we'll do an episode. But so this one might be a little bit shorter. I'll see if I get caught up in the comments or something. It might go, a normal episode, but not a whole lot on this commitment here, but certainly we can extend some of the transfer portal talk right here with the commitment of Adrian Maddox right here for the Gators. So, like I said, shorter episode unless we get caught up in some comments here. But thanks for hopping on right here. A little bit of, is it late enough to call it After Dark? Gators Breakdown After Dark? After 11 o'clock? Can we call that Gators Breakdown Late Show? Something like that whenever this happens. The rare chances and the rare times that it does happen. But certainly wanted to hop on here and discuss this one. So as I said, back on Monday night, me and Will Miles. Yes, Robert M. It is live. See, I can't put this comment and show this comment if it's not live. So there you go. There's your proof. It's not a pre-record or anything like that. I didn't know this one was coming. I did not know. So as Harrison puts out, and we'll get into this. UGA wanted him bad, and his grades were really good. Love this. Because even as recently as of today, there was a report that Georgia was going to get Maddox. So Florida had other plans. So there, casual Carolina fishing late show, but I'm here. Go Gators! Hey, thanks for hopping on late. Robert M. does say Gators Breakdown After Dark. Love it. Harrison Sanchez on Maddox, great size. Yeah, we'll get into that for sure. Do have it streaming on X again as well. Like I said, that'll be a little project. We'll see how that goes. I don't want to eat into the YouTube too much, so that's it's going to be a balancing act till I figure out the good and bad of that. So I'll do it for a little while so I can get a good little case study right here on that. Hey, I appreciate you guys too. Robert, thanks so much for hopping in. Jason says Gators Breakdown After Dark. LOL. Yeah. I mean, it's not the first time we've used that. So gotta jump on the old famous Pac-12 After Dark. Oh Lord, rest its soul there. But that's about it. All right, let's get into it. I'll come back around to some comments. Everybody here, thanks one more time for hopping on the live side of this. But if you're catching the replay, thank you just as much. Adrian Maddox commits to Florida from UAB. That's where he spent last season. And as I said, there's two SEC programs that thought they were going to be the landing spot for Maddox. First, it was Arkansas. Arkansas felt really good after he visited there. And then recently, there was some crystal balls and reports as recently as today, this January 5th, that Maddox was headed to Athens. Now, he was going to be going to Georgia some point soon. But instead, on Sunday, Maddox commits to the Florida Gators. Georgia did receive, of course, a very popular topic on Sunday. They did get a commitment from safety Zion Branch as well, and as well as his brother Zachariah. But the thought is Georgia is going to take more than one safety in the transfer portal if they can anyway. Now, did this affect Maddox's decision today? I don't really think so. I don't have an idea. This is me guessing because they play two different safety roles. Branch more of a free safety type, and Maddox is going to be more in that nickel star role here for the Gators. So, but look, Georgia's interest at the least tells us, look, we know they're a rival, but we can still respect what they've done on the defensive side of the ball and the players they bring in and the players they evaluate. And this tells me Florida's getting a pretty coveted transfer product here with Maddox in the fold. As I said, Maddox, different type of style. So I think if Georgia could bring him in, they would. And Georgia's still pursuing a nickel star type. So Georgia looks like they're still going to try and turn their sights to an NC State nickel, Brendan Sisse. So my inclination is, and as I said, the reports as of today is that Georgia was going to bring him in, but then we get the commitment news, the Maddox to Florida. So there you go. Maddox took an official visit to Florida last month ahead of, the start of the December recruiting dead period. As I said, took some other trips as well, Arkansas being one, Louisville, Georgia, during his transfer recruitment. But then Benjamin Wolk, and he was the one today that was saying Georgia was probably going to end up with Maddox. He posted earlier today, when it looked like Maddox was headed to Georgia, quote, "In talking with folks who have scouted Maddox heavily, his size and speed combinations has college coaches salivating about his NFL ceiling and immediate impact potential." End the quote. I'm going to read that one more time, because when the name Adrian Maddox popped up on Florida's radar and he took a visit, then some time died down, didn't really hear about it, but still, a DB from UAB, not going to turn a lot of heads. But when you start seeing Arkansas, Louisville, okay, he gets the notoriety up a little bit. And then he goes to Georgia. Looks like he's trending Georgia. And then in the report, I'm going to read that one more time. In talking with folks who have scouted Maddox heavily, his size and speed combinations has college coaches salivating about his NFL ceiling and immediate impact potential. There you go. I mean, tells me a lot right there. He officially entered the portal December 10th after one season with the UAB Blazers. In 2024, Maddox finished his only season at UAB with about 400 snaps, 44 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 1 interception that was returned 99 yards for a touchdown, 8 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles. As I said, played about 400 snaps, according to Pro Football Focus. He had a 77 defensive grade, fourth highest among defensive backs in the American Conference, 63.4 tackling grade, 83.9 coverage score per Pro Football Focus. One more time, overall 77. That was 4th highest among defensive backs in the American Conference, a 63.4 tackling grade, and an 83.9 coverage score per Pro Football Focus. 6'3", 200 pounds. There's that size and speed combination that you're looking for. As I said, Florida looking at nickel star role, not the true safety role. Spent 1 season at UAB after transferring from Alabama State the year before. Before transferring to UAB ahead of the 2024 season, Maddox played 21 games at Alabama State, where he signed out of high school, finished with 90 total tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and 2 interceptions. He was named a Jerry Rice Award finalist in 2022 and was named All-Conference both seasons. So I'm looking at impact. What kind of impact can a player like this out of the transfer portal bring? And I'm looking like a Triquez Bridges. Even though his largest impact, of course, came at the cornerback spot as the season progressed, but somebody you bring in who has some position flex style. Maddox is going to mostly play nickel star, can slide to safety if he has to. So there's some positional flex there. But in that quote that I read earlier, and if you're looking for an impact, somebody who can play right away, have impact right away. Now, for Bridges, for whatever reason, didn't start the season. I don't know about that one. DJ Douglas started the season, remember, against Miami. Bridges, with some injuries, Asa Turner gets hurt. They finally turn from Douglas to Bridges, and the rest is history for this season. So Maddox played a lot of snaps in what PFF designates as the slot, and Florida does look like, that they like his position flexibility. Will play the nickel star role like he mostly did at UAB this past season as well. And look, if you look at his highlights, you can see a physical play. And Bobby needs to wrap up a little bit more, but he's not afraid to play physical, go downhill, hit somebody with some bad intentions. Really good reaction time, instincts, and shows some really good instincts with the ball in the air. will make plays around and behind the line of scrimmage. Like I said, does offer some position flexibility here on the back end for the Gators. So we'll see if Florida moves him around if need be. And I go back to, we found out when Florida was recruiting Zachariah Poyser, the safety product there, and that Florida was looking to bring in another player at the star spot. And they found it here now with Adrian Maddox. Not sure if this would be such a big need if Aaron Gates didn't get hurt late in the season. And, his late season injury, certainly some depth questions now at the spot, along with Sharif Denson. It looked like, Denson, Gates played wonderfully together as a pair all throughout the season. Gates goes down against Ole Miss, ACL, I believe, so going to have some rehab. Will he be ready for the start of the season? Josiah Davis, the next likely option. So gives Florida, 3 options here with not counting Davis, but guys who have played a lot of snaps at the position, no matter it be at Florida or somewhere else. So 3 options here, and we'll see how fast Gates comes back. But in my mind, that's probably the main reason Florida gets a star. I don't know if they pursue so heavy or if it's ideal without the Gates injury for a player coming in. But kind of the way I look at it. Here, got PFF grades for all these guys. Maddox was the highest. Now we know it's UAB competition level comes into play here, but now you see why you probably want to get a player like this to go along with Denson and Gates, and hopefully Gates is back 100% by the time Florida rolls around and plays the first game of the season against Long Island. But who knows how long this rehab's going to take there for his injury. Maddox with a 77 grade, as I mentioned. Rush defense had a 64.7. Pass defense, 83.1. About 22 points higher than Denson and Gates out of the nickel spot. So more of the pass coverage, getting some help in that regard. Denson overall 65.4, 75.5 rush defense grade there for Sharif Denson, 61.2 in coverage, and Gates 62.9 overall, 63.3 in the rushing department, and a 61.4 in the coverage department. If you go and take a look, and Sharif Denson, his best 2 games came in the last 2 games of the season with Florida State and then the bowl game in Tulane. Above his average there. His average, as I said, for Denson, 65.4. He had 67.8 versus FSU and a 70 grade versus Tulane, and really excelled in the rush defense, did Sharif Denson, being a pretty sure tackler there for the Gators. Something with all these guys, but even with Gates too, just as the season progressed, you could tell there was more physicality at that nickel star spot, and guys who just weren't afraid to come up and lay a hard hit. It's something we have not seen from that position with any kind of consistency since Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in 2018. I think Florida found themselves some nickel options there with Denson and Gates. And with Denson, as I said, his 2 best games came in the last 2 games of the season there against Florida State and Tulane. Before that, though, a 58.8 grade versus Ole Miss, 61 versus LSU. So not the best versus those 2 teams, but that rush defense grade certainly was there. It was the coverage grade, so that really hurt Denson, but did play better toward the end of the season in those last 2 games. But see, this is why I will bring you PFF grades, but at the same time, not the end all be all of everything. Of course, nobody in that Texas against Texas, nobody in that game going to have a good grade. Against Georgia, though, Aaron Gates, 73.9 grade. I mean, that was an awesome game for him against Georgia, all in the green there. If you go to Pro Football Focus, and green's good. I think blue is the top level of the color. That's good, but green is good. That was his highest besides Samford, of course, not really going to count that. But Aaron Gates' best game last year in the Gator uniform came against Georgia. His rush defense grade in that game was 68.7. His tackling, 79.2 in that game. Had a coverage grade of 72.8 versus the Dogs there. So Aaron Gates, But in his last full game against LSU, where the Florida defense played well, only a grade of 52.7. So not the greatest, but I think as we went and looked through all the season, BFF grade is not going to tell us all. Not going to tell us everything to rely on here. It is one way to look at it, not the only way to look at it there. But I think certainly enough to be excited about when you look what Denson and Gates did at the nickel spot, and now bringing in Maddox along with that rotation as well. Okay. So, of course, Maddox now joins Kofi Asari as the 2 defensive acquisitions out of the transfer portal to go along with J. Michael Sturdivant, the wide receiver transfer, and punter Tommy Doman. So concentrating on the defense, let's go there for a second. And with Caleb Banks coming back, I believe Tyreek Sapp will end up coming back as well. Hopefully that's announced soon. But you get those 2 guys coming up, and that's 2 positions that should be better. You know, those guys building on the great late stretch of the season that they put together keeps Florida from having to go attack the portal at those spots. And of course, talked about this angle of it before as well. These guys will call some too. So if there's going to be some knocks on, why aren't we spending enough in the transfer portal to go get this guy or that guy, this guy? Well, Caleb Banks and Tyreek Sapp ain't playing for free. And believe me, those 2 guys are going to be better than what you go get out of the transfer portal anyway at those spots. So by keeping guys like this, the roster spots aren't there. So, but we do know, beside those guys, what about the void that Cam Jackson and Desmond Watson leave? While I love what Jamari Lyons can be at the spot, he's got to come back from a pretty bad injury and get back to the player that he was believed to be last offseason. And I remember going through spring and summer and fall camp was here, and Jamari Lyons is showing out behind the scenes, and there were many people labeling Cam Jackson 1A and Jamari Lyons 1B. There wasn't much separating those guys before the Lions injury. So hopefully we get that player back next season. And that doesn't make it where it's so necessary to go and get this defensive tackle spot beside, Banks for the most part. I mean, they were thinking very highly of Jamari Lyons. But if he has any setbacks, or if he just isn't the same player they thought he'd be because of injury, then you turn into Mekhi Burrow, DeAndre Robinson to play in the middle, beside Banks, even for Banks at times, maybe 6'4", 380-pound true freshman Stephon Shivers, but we didn't want to have to rely on those guys. If Lyons is all the way there, then it's not as dire to get somebody at this spot, but we've already seen it. Florida had interest in bringing in Keyshawn Silver, so the interest is there. We're bringing in another option. And maybe it's just because they see Silver as this big upgrade and there isn't many more out there like him in the portal, so they just hold tight with what you have. Or it's a wait and see if anybody else jumps in. I do like the talent of the guys I mentioned that Florida has on the roster at those spots, but an experienced player would be a big benefit at that spot. So I still think defensive tackle to fill the void of a Cam Jackson and Des Watson. If you really, like I said, we know the interest is there. They have targeted a person at that spot. But as I said, Silver, really highly ranked. So is it hey, let's go see if we can really, really upgrade the spot. We like what we have, but if we can get a player of a Silver caliber, okay, we'll go get it done. We'll go try and get it done. But if not, we're okay. I'm eager to see where that one goes. I think the other spot, as we stay on the defensive side of the ball, is cornerback. Devin Moore coming back, but of course, injury history there. So can you really count on him to play as much as you want? Dijon Johnson has the other spot locked up, and then we'll need to see a jump out of Cormani McLean, Jameer Grimsley, Teddy Foster, maybe even Ben Hanks III can cut through as a top corner from this 2025 class. But we know Florida has interest in targets here as well. Let's go back to last week, most recently. Southern Miss cornerback Michael Carraway Jr. he says Florida's had talks with him. And he finished the 2024 season, 37 tackles, 24 being them solo, 1 pass breakup, 1 fumble recovery, 6'2", 195-pound cornerback. Also, a few days ago, we heard about the Washington State cornerback, Stephen Hall, said Florida had offered him as well. So we know Florida's targeting some cornerbacks. So, there's interest there as well. And I think rightfully so for Florida, especially. I think if you knew Devin Moore didn't have that injury history, you'd probably give a little more leeway of not really targeting other cornerbacks. But Florida needs some depth there. And probably in more the experience variety. I mean, that's what you're talking about with the transfer portal anyway. I don't think at this point of Billy Napier's tenure, where this roster is, you're not getting many developmental projects out of the transfer portal. You're getting guys that are going to come in here and play right away. Guys that are going to push Devin Moore. Guys that are going to push Dijon Johnson and the other young guys in a name. So at corner, we know there's interest there. Now go to the other side of the ball. And I know edge will probably be brought up too. I think Florida's going to be done at edge. We're bringing in Kofi Asari. Go to the other side, wide receiver, offensive line. That's just the 2 positions. We'll see. J. Michael Sturdivant, already brought him in. Are there any more options Florida decides to bring in at wide receiver? Teams that are still playing. There's only 4 teams left. So I do think there's interest in bringing in other wide receivers. We'll see what comes of it. Offensive line, specifically the right tackle, another tackle. Still not really hearing a ton at that spot. Some young guys I know Florida really likes. Do they ride with that? I still go get some more experience. This would be something Will and I talk about tomorrow on Gators Breakdown on the Monday episode. Of you have this window, build around it with DJ Lagway. We'll see at that right tackle spot. I think if you can get somebody who really fits in and that you believe can come in right away and fit in with the other 4 guys that are coming back. But it's not a project. Not a project at this right tackle spot. You got to have somebody who can come in and play right away. Right away. And I think raise the level of this offensive line. Is that guy out there? There's not a lot of names floating around out there for that one. So, all right, there we go. Getting caught up with portal a little bit. Not many spots left on this Florida roster to begin with. Now, that could be a problem if you think it is. Florida maybe need to cut some more ties with some guys. We'll see how all the scholarships work themselves out and how this new roster construction works itself out as well. But for now, not many spots left. And I've always said they work themselves out. So there's somebody out there Florida really wants. You make it happen. All right, let's get quick comments here. Kind of going to JLB and his comment there. Dave, how much room do we have left for recruits? If I remember off the top of my head, this would make for Maddox would make 84. But as I said, that's assuming some of the guys who were on scholarship last year stay on scholarship. With the way NIL works now, do some guys not get on scholarship, go with NIL for a year or so? There's different ways. I think if the most basic look at it right now, Florida's sitting at 84. Get this a lot. Casual Carolina fishing. Love the shirt, Dave. Yeah, I figured with some commits, whether it be through the transfer portal, whether it be through the high school ranks, a shirt that says "Welcome to Florida." We welcome these recruits. So it fits. Try to theme it up a little bit. Marty Mann says, need an offensive tackle and defensive tackle. Any news there? There we go. Just kind of went through all that. Not really any names, honestly. We know that those positions could be hit Will they be hit? Okay. Brian Fisher says Georgia's going back to regular Mark Richt days. We'll see. I ain't ready to go that far with it yet. Let's go through some more comments. Sorry for a little bit of silence here. Sorry, trying to catch back up there. Harrison says, "Yep, good comparison. Bridges was a very good tackler, though. Definitely was. But like that's I said, that's the kind of impact and what I'm looking for too. I'm intrigued with the high coverage grade because Florida still got to get better at the explosives, limiting the explosives. Overall, they did a better job of that during that nice stretch at the end of the season. Another step there where you don't. I mean." Lag behind. Of course, we know there's some changes on the defensive staff, and we'll see if there's any more on that side of the ball. But the coverage grade really intrigues me, as we saw in the PFF grades there, in all the comparison. Gates, Denson could get better there as well. Now, as I said, those grades aren't everything. There's a level of competition change here. That has worked out for Florida in some regards and hasn't worked out for Florida in some regards, is bringing some of those lower tier guys up to SEC standards. So we'll see how it breaks out here. But as I said, and you guys know it just as good as I do, I hate to talk up a rival so much, but there's still this, hey, if Georgia wants you, that's probably a pretty good sign with their defensive staff, their evaluation process, their history there. So certainly, I think getting a plus player here for the Gators. John Quarles says, "I like this kid. I like the depth, but we need help at other positions and hope we are getting help in there in the portal too. And still need an OC. Any word on that?" Not much. I still think there's some stuff going on behind the scenes. Probably some interviews and conversations happening. As I said, we go back to a year ago and there was all this talk of bringing in an OC and bringing in an OC and bringing in an OC, and it didn't happen. So it's still one of those topics where, I think I said it a couple weeks ago, I'm at the point now where even if I hear it behind the scenes a little bit, I'm going to see it when I'll believe it when I see it. There's just been so much talk about it that I don't know. I think they're trying, obviously, if it's going to be done, they're trying to really keep it under wraps, because we've heard about all the GM and the front office talk the last couple of days, and Florida trying to fill multiple roles in that now and help with NIL and help with contract negotiations and all this new world that we're leaning or heading towards in college football. Florida looking for a few roles in that. Well, that info got out there. The info for an OC is pretty much non-existent. So it's either being kept under wraps really well, or there's just not much to it. I know many people out there just do not believe it will happen. Harrison, I think that's where I was going. Oh, never mind. I'm catching back up. You guys were talking about OT defensive tackle options. Marty Mann was Harrison Sanchez. Dave, any word on nose guard? As far as nose, or defensive tackle, kind of just going back to the recent conversation, no specific names. Honestly, the most specific names that we've gotten lately would be on the defensive side of the ball, where we talked about I can't remember his name off the top of my head, the Georgia Southern linebacker, the Southern Miss defensive back that we just brought up, and talking about that. There were conversations with the Washington State cornerback as well. So it's some of the communication that they're having with some of the portal targets that are out there, but not hearing much at those other spots. Cliff Arrington brings up Onus Conan Banny. He'll be a cornerback. They're committed to Tennessee right now. Things are looking good for Florida to end up getting him in the high school ranks of the 2025 class. Robert M. Note. there's no truth to the rumor about Chip Kelly and OC. You can't believe everything you're seeing out there on the socials. No truth to that whatsoever. Hot top. Hey, Shelton, what's up, man? Are we back, Dave? We need to know. It's it's getting there. It's getting there. You can tell maybe some of the social medias. I got some heated conversations with some Miami and FSU fans, and ticking them off with some recent social media comments. And Will and I will get into that. That's going to be the theme of the episode for Monday night. Is hey, it's time to strike for Florida. It is. It's time. Look, you got your quarterback, the roster construction. Zoom out and take a look at other teams. Time's now to strike. We'll get more into that. All right, there we go. Good stuff. Hey, about 30 minutes. There we go. About how long? It's late enough. I need to get some sleep. I need to get caught up. As I said, we'll do another episode tomorrow anyway. This was always meant to be a shorter episode. But good stuff. Adrian Maddox committing to the Gators. Well, we'll say it. If it ticks him off, it ticks him off. I mean, we got enough reports out there. Committing to the Gators over Georgia. Anytime we can say that, we got to take advantage of it. But look, there's other targets out there too that Georgia will probably be more than fine with. But this was one they wanted, one many thought Georgia was getting on the same day Maddox commits to the Gators. Sorry, that'll do it for this episode of Gators Breakdown. Everybody thinks. Big thank you for hopping on this late episode of Gators Breakdown. You guys never disappoint. Never disappoint right here with these surprise commitments, surprise time episodes. But one more time, thank you. That'll do it for this episode of Gators Breakdown. I'm your host, David Waters. Find me on X at GatorDave_SEC. Guys and girls out there, thank you for joining me on this episode of Gators Breakdown.